Hey, deserving listeners, it's time to continue watching 90 Day Fiancé. Let's get to the show.
Oh, yeah, we're flexible.
Brendan, interesting.
we'll
How
have
you know
all-
about waiting?
All of your guests will be
You know how
seated
many
out
people?
here.
I guess him don't know about waiting. Nothing.
Okay, so the ominous music is playing because Julia is upset at Brandon because Brandon, according to her, seems uninterested in the wedding process. So what does this mean? Well, there's a lot of different possibilities. Maybe all of them are at play. One is that he simply just is not interested in weddings, even his own. And he's interested in being with Julia. He's interested in spending the rest of his life with her. He's interested in loving her and pleasing her, but he's not interested in weddings. But you would think that he would at least be interested in how Julia is doing, right? That was the whole thing with the wedding dress was there's nothing wrong with not being interested in wedding dresses or not discerning between different wedding dresses or not really having enough of an opinion to get involved in the wedding dress discussion because it's just you just don't care. I've certainly been in conversations like that where people like, with different swatches of color, different shades of white, you got eggshell and this sort of thing. And I'm just like, I don't know. I don't know if I know enough about this sort of thing to chime in. But it is the wedding that you're going to be involved in, and at least it's your girlfriend, your fiance, your future wife's love. She's really into this sort of thing. And so you can at least empathize. They're like, oh, wow, so you like this sort of church. Wow, that's really, even though you have no opinion about the church, maybe no opinion about the wedding at all, but Julia has opinion. You could be like, wow, it's okay. You like this place? Yeah, I could see how you would like this place. It's fine, right? Like if I have a friend that is moving into an apartment and I'm going to barely ever spend any time at that apartment and they were really in love with that apartment, I'm not going to be like, and if they're really excited and they come to me and like, oh, look at this apartment, I'm not going to be like, what are you coming to me for? And that's a situation where I don't have any involvement really in that apartment. Brandon has a lot of involvement in this wedding. He's a part of it. So again, there's nothing wrong. There's a big difference between not really having opinions about the matter yourself and being completely disinterested in a very distancing way, in a hurtful way, toward your loved one about something that they're very excited. At the very least, you can kind of drum up some excitement. I think we can all relate to that as well. There are times when your friend might be really excited about a new pair of jeans and you're just like, I don't care. But they care, so you kind of act like you care. Not lying, but you're like, oh, okay, yeah, great, awesome. And then in the back of your head is like, I don't know if I care at all. Because you care, you have empathy, we don't want to lie to people, of course, and deceive them. But anyway, point is that maybe Brandon will step up, maybe he won't. But then we have to ask, well, why would it be that way? What defense is at play that is interfering with his ability to have empathy and to have common sense in the situation, or even to allow himself to enjoy the wedding himself? Well, one is my hypothesis, total speculation because I don't know him, I'd have to ask him, that he suffers from dependency. What the internet commonly would call codependency. That's a word for addiction, families. I always try to get people away from that word. We have a perfectly good word. Often when people say codependency, what they really mean, the clinical word for it is just dependency, pathological dependency or problematic dependency. Everyone is dependent on other human beings. I'm dependent on other human beings, and other human beings are dependent on me. We're social creatures, but we have pathological dependency or problematic or excessive dependency that is developed in families that can look like the way his family looks, with very stern parenting, very overprotective and controlling. I don't know if that's how the parents are. I'd have to ask Brandon, but there seem to be some red flags of that anyway. So when you suffer from problematic or excessive or pathological dependency, that's just a placeholder word that describes a broader personality. One is that you don't really have competence. You don't feel like you're competent at anything. You don't feel like you can do anything on your own. You always have to defer to the person you're dependent on, usually people who are close to you, mom, dad, and now Julia to some extent. The other is that you're kind of terrified of getting in trouble because one of the patterns that can cause dependency is parenting that really pounces on the kids very quickly. As soon as the child does something wrong, the parents pounce in a very intense way, even if it's well-meaning sometimes. So sometimes parents they're really anxious as parents, and they'll step in because they're trying to save the child. And when you do that excessively, the child learns, oh my goodness, I can't really even have my own opinions if I do bad. So I just need to be as invisible as possible. I'm going to be as blank and as an open book as possible. It's just like, I'm whatever you want me to be. And people like this are very outward focusing too. They're very perceptive about what's going on, or they think they are anyway. They have a lot of attention, and they might be projecting a lot of things into other people, but they're very attentive to what's going on around them and not attentive to the self, because they weren't rewarded for that. In fact, they were probably punished when they so focused on the self when they were 2, 3, 4 years old. So when you have that, and there's a whole set of other things too, but the point is that if he has that condition and he's stepping into the situation where Julia has her own wants and her own needs and her own preferences, and he's over here going like, I just want her to be happy. So I don't care. One, because if I care, then that'll cause a conflict between us, and that'll mean terrible things. You'll either reject me or you will punish me. So I need you to believe I have no preferences. And also, I just need you to be happy, because when you're happy, then I can relax. Then I can depend on you, and everything will be fine. So, and I don't know what I want because no one's asked me what I wanted my entire life, and I don't even know how to access what I want. So please just do what you need to do. Ignore me. And one of the ways you can get people to ignore you in a situation, especially when you're socially nervous, is to be a kind of a jerk face to people. Just, I don't know, don't ask me. And what that gives the signal, and it usually works, is people go, oh, okay, that person's in a bad mood. I'm not going to bother them with anything. And then mission accomplished. They don't want to turn to you. You are now invisible. They're going to do what they're going to do, and you don't have to get involved, and you don't have to get into any kind of conflict with anyone, which is what you're trying to avoid. And you're just trying to make other people happy. Meanwhile, underneath all that is a tremendous ocean of emotion, of resentment and anger, because no one is asking you what you want. But why aren't they asking you what you want? Because you're pushing them away. And when they do ask you what you want, you don't actually say anything. So it's part of the condition, and it's derived from early childhood, and it tends to perpetuate itself. So let's keep that in mind as we watch Brandon. I'm not diagnosing him. I'm just saying I've treated people who have exhibited behavior kind of like this and found that was what was happening. I don't know anything about Brandon. I'd have to ask him, but let's watch.
It's going to depend on what's going on in the world.
Oh, yeah, we're flexible.
Brandon, interesting.
we'll
How
have
you know
all-
about waiting?
All of your guests will be
You know how
seated
many
out
people?
here.
I guess him don't know about waiting. Nothing.
Well, this is the first time he's ever been engaged or had a chance
Okay,
to
second
talk
time you'll be
about-
fine.
So, as part of the family dynamic, the mother steps in because she speaks for him probably a lot of the time. When you have an overprotective, dominant parenting style, you will effectively keep a child, and he's 27-ish. He's well into adulthood, and in terms of age. And when you keep a child at the age of like 4, when you go to the first day of kindergarten class and the teacher asks the 5-year-old, like, what's your name? And the 5-year-old boy is too shy and doesn't know what to say. The mom will step in and ask and answer the question for the child. That's not uncommon. But if you do that over and over and over, and you give lots of messages to the child that they're incompetent and that they are invisible and that they don't matter, then in a situation like this, as it's kind of tense, the cameras are there and there's other people, the church people are there, Julia is upset at him, and he doesn't know what to do. He's kind of freezing, and the mom steps in. I wonder if that is indicative of an ongoing dynamic in the family. I don't know.
I asked Brandon about who come this wedding, and he don't know. It's like Betty plans our wedding.
And what day will it be?
So a tempting conclusion is that it's Betty's fault, that Betty is not allowing Brandon to plan the wedding. So Julia is observing something. She's saying, so Brandon, you don't know how many people are coming. You don't know how many people are coming. How come Betty knows all these things? Okay. So a tempting conclusion is, well, Betty, the mother, is being dominant and it's all her fault. That's why he isn't asserting himself, because Betty is overpowering him. That could be true. It also could be true that Brandon, even if the mom didn't do anything, Brandon would still be blank, that he wouldn't have any opinions based on what I've been saying earlier. These things work in tandem, particularly with adults and their parents. You know, by the time you're his age, you're pretty locked in your defensive structure. I mean, not that you can't change it, you can, but it tends to be fairly consistent. And the way that Betty and the son, Brandon, fit together, they mutually support each other's dynamic in that she bulldozes, but he also pulls her into bulldoze because he doesn't do anything. I don't know this to be true, but this is a common dynamic that I would treat, is that if like, for example, and we're seeing the beginnings of this, that let's say Brandon and Julia get married, they move out on their own, and the parents are pretty peripheral in their life. And Brandon continues to be a doormat and blank and dependent and outward focused and not having his own opinions and not being assertive and being terrified of conflict. And Julia will get more and more angry about that and more dominant in the relationship. Like, you are incompetent. You don't even know how to make decisions. What's wrong with you? That's a common reaction to a dependent person. It's just like, do you have no opinions? Do you have no wants? Do you care? Are you even in? Because that's often what it feels like to the Julias of the world. It's like, so you don't even care. You don't care about me. I mean, look at you. You're just a blank. You're nothing. Are you thinking about something else? Do you wish that you were? Because that's what it feels like. It's like, well, if you're not here in the world, maybe you're somewhere else. And that's why I use the word ghost to describe some of these people, is that as a partner, you'll reach for them and you'll get this ethereal gas. And it's just like see-through, like a ghost. And you're just like, where are you? And it feels like, well, if they're not there, they must be somewhere else. But it's possible that they're nowhere because they were never allowed to be anywhere psychically because of the way they were treated growing up. So my point is that we can look to Betty as someone who perhaps generated this, and the father, and but in terms of the perpetuation of the dynamic, Brandon could be just as much, quote unquote, to blame. I don't know. I'd have to ask them.
That's what she wants to do, is make
The
up.
only
They try to
issue we
talk her
have
out of
is-
that because of Mother's Day, but
That's your
Okay.
special day.
They have chosen May 9th for their wedding, but the very next day is Mother's Day. So that's going to hectic weekend around here. I have kind of mixed feelings about this. Is there a reason for May 9th?
Okay, interesting. So we have another person saying, and by the way, Betty was very gracious. She said it's their special day. You heard a little bit of frustration in there. But anyway, this other woman's like, well, that's weird that they're getting married the day before, before Mother's Day. That seems a little strange. Is this a cultural thing in Virginia? If you're from Virginia, believe that's where they live. Comment below. Is it that strange to get married on the Saturday before Mother's Day? Let me know.
9 is her favorite number.
Brandon, no, serious. Why we want this date?
Then you're
If
like,
you say I don't know, I go.
Okay, interesting. So Brandon said it's her favorite number, which I'm trying to remember what it was. Didn't they meet or something on the 9th of a particular month? And so now Julia's like, wait, what? It's not why we're getting married on the 9th. And if you can't put effort into remembering or keeping track of these things, I'm leaving right now. I think she's joking, but I wonder if there's some truth behind that threat.
Him write me message, first message, and him write me, you look like my future wife this day.
The girl has favorite numbers. I think originally she wanted a wedding date that was her favorite number, which would have been 13 or 6. And I just got lost in that. Whatever.
Okay, so apparently he did just completely forget. There's nothing wrong with forgetting things. People forget anniversary dates. Some people just aren't good at cataloging those things away. It doesn't necessarily mean that you don't love someone. But what do we do when we do forget? We say, oh my God, I'm so sorry I forgot about that. I love you. I just want to let you know. You reassure someone, I'm sorry I forgot our anniversary date, but that doesn't mean anything about my feelings for you. I do love you. But the way Brandon is coming across right now is just like, I don't know. I just forgot. What are you going to do? I'm beginning to wonder what's going on with him lately. Does he feel discounted? This wouldn't be unusual. As I've been talking about dependency and dependent personality, like I've been saying, there's an ocean of emotion of anger and resentment that is vast. Essentially what happens for the dependent individual is starting at the age of 1, 2, 3, 4 years old, they are constantly putting their anger and resentment into a box and closing the lid. And they know through experience that if they even let out a little bit of that anger, really horrible things are going to happen to them for one reason or another. Either abuse from a parent who is suffering from drug addiction, alcohol addiction, a parent who is just generally abusive, anger, this sort of thing, or a parent who rejects them, abandons them. Just something horrible is going to happen to them. And so they don't know, and it's probably not true, that they can't express any of their anger. It's probably more nuanced than that they probably could express some anger in some instances, but maybe not anger in these other circumstances. But the 2-year-old, the 4-year-old doesn't really understand that nuance, so they just shut the whole system down. They try to get rid of all their anger, but it doesn't go away. It stays within them. So by the time you're 27, you have 27 years of unexpressed anger, which means underneath it all, the person is extremely angry. Dependent people are some of the most angry, secretly angry individuals on the planet. But you would never know it, and they might not know it, but it's down there, and it will come out in various different ways. And I wonder if it's coming out right now. And this is what we call passive aggression or hidden hostility. Maybe he has a problem with the mom, maybe he has a problem with Julia, and he is in a very hidden way, maybe even unconscious, hurting Julia's feelings as a way of expressing some of that repressed anger. I don't know. I mean, I'm really just, psychobabbling at this point, but it is a possibility that I'll add to the list.
I can't believe Brandon forget why important for me 9 May. And now I know Brandon doesn't matter about everything about waiting day. Waiting day very important for both of us. It's like not only my day. It's like he give me new problem every day.
Okay, so that's an interesting statement. He gives me a new problem every day. I wonder if that's alluding to things that we haven't seen on the show. That's interesting. Yeah, so for Julia, it hurts. It hurts to go into a wedding with someone that isn't even just kind of not interested. They seem to just be completely uninterested, like they would rather be anywhere else other than there. And then you have that mounting hurt and that distance and that feeling of rejection and disinterest, and then you're just like, yeah, we're getting married May 9th. Both of us know why. And he's like, oh yeah, it's your favorite number. And she's, what? And it just compounds the hurt and the pain for her. So she seems to be handling it pretty well. We could imagine more destructive ways of handling her anger that she's not doing. So kudos to Julia for that, at least from what we've seen. If you want me to tell a loved one happy birthday or happy anniversary or some other kind of pep talk thing, you can go to Cameo and you can go to my thing and you can do the thing, and then I will send a thing to you saying that whatever thing you want me to say within reason. So go to Cameo if you want. And everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it, and take care of others because we all deserve it. We really, really do.